Jacques Jefferies is a professional biathlete competing at an elite level who has been an advocate for good mental health in sport for several years. In 2023, he conducted a survey among almost 700 of his fellow athletes in a bid to understand better the mental health challenges they face. I'm Callum Murray, and as part of the BIU's Summer of Mental Health, I spoke to Jacques about his campaign. Stay tuned. So, Jacques, welcome to this BIU podcast on the subject of mental health in sport.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. It's an honor.
I wanted to start by asking you how you first became interested in mental health in sport and what your own mental health journey has been in biathlon.
It's quite an interesting question, and it dates back to a fair few years now. I think I can go all the way back to 2020, when I first got properly interested in the subject. It mainly started when I joined the national team, and I was around lots of high level athletes all the time, and you start noticing some of your teammates and your friends struggling with mental health challenges, but keeping them to themselves, not really speaking up, not really looking for help anywhere, finding a solution to their own problems. And then when it starts hitting you as well, when I start feeling intense pressure from my competition, and also just anxiety and things like that, which are mental health challenges, and I start reacting the same way as them. So that's keeping it to myself, and not openly looking for solutions to my problems. And that's really when it all started. I kind of wanted to find a way to open up the conversation and to get people to actually reach for help. And even if they can't find help, then explain why and try and find solutions to these problems.
Can you be a little bit more specific about the problems you've experienced and the ones you've seen around you?
Just coming to like pressure from my coaches and my federation back in the day, pressure to compete, pressure to achieve certain results, which is normal in some way in high level sports. You're obviously pressured by some people to achieve results, but at some point when you get pushed to the limit, and then it starts getting really complicated.
So you conducted a study in 2023 about athletes' mental health and well-being. What did you discover from that study, and how has that influenced your work in this field?
Yeah, so that was a study which it was quite a big study. There was loads of questions. So when I got over 170 replies to the study, I was really, really happy because it may still seem small, but I'd had quite a small following. I don't know that many athletes. And so for me, it was still quite a big pool of replies and you could already, even after 50 participants, I could already see some of the tendencies which were popping out. And so yeah, as I said, lots of the athletes were current athletes, over 80% of them at the time of replying to the survey. And some of the things which really came out were that everyone, or more than 70% of the athletes, had faced mental health challenges before, um, be it burnout or social stress, anxiety, eating disorders. And then that's when you start noticing that, well, it happens to everyone. It doesn't just happen to you, and you feel less alone all of a sudden, but you also start feeling not guilty, but also just wondering how you can make things better for all these athletes as well as for yourself. And some of the questions which I asked in the survey back then were more guided around what did they want, and why were they facing some of these challenges, and were they seeking help for these challenges. And one of the biggest statistics was 95% of the people who replied, so pretty much everyone, said that they lacked proper mental health knowledge and material in the subject on how to maybe detect mental health challenges in their friends and their surroundings, and also how to face the challenges themselves. So yeah, it was very eye-opening for me, and it made me realize that something had to be done, and that if we just keep on our own with our own little challenges and suffering in silence and not talking about it, not spreading the message, not raising awareness to this subject, then everyone's just gonna continue keeping it to themselves, and that's not ideal at all.
So, have you been able to persuade any of the organizations within your sport to act on those findings?
Maybe not particularly act on the findings themselves, because as I said, I conducted the survey. I didn't keep it to myself. I published a little article about it, and I've spoken about the survey before on different occasions. But it's mainly been some great work by the International Biathlon Union to push this subject out into the world. Um, since then, and not particularly based on the survey, but they've started putting out more and more resources for athletes on the IBU Academy website, which is open to all athletes, and also by pushing other organizations like the BIU to talk about mental health throughout a whole summer, which is amazing because it means that throughout all the podcasts and all the different talks which the BIU have been producing this summer, then lots of athletes, and it's not just athletes, it's also the staff and the people around the athletes, but they get to read about these resources, realize that they're not alone, and maybe find the help that they've been looking for.
And of course, there is ongoing work, as you know, with the IBU and the BIU, with the mental health working group. You are an IBU sustainability ambassador. What's the relationship between sustainability and your interest in mental health in biathlon?
Well, when you think about sustainability, you've got the three big main pillars of sustainability, do you? Which is the economic, the environmental, and the social side of sustainability. And so, in one or all of those pillars, one of them was social, and so creating a sustainable career and life for the athletes is kind of a pillar as well in this sustainability. So yeah, if you want to create a sustainable sport that suddenly breaks people at its core, that's not what you want. You want to create a sustainable sport with an amazing biathlon family, which helps people, encourages people to speak up, encourages people to go and look for the help they need. So that's why, and being part of this athlete ambassador group gives me more opportunities to speak up, to talk to the people involved at the IBU about these subjects, and to help everyone, which is amazing.
And in your experience over the last few years, are athletes still concerned that to admit to mental health concerns is to stigmatize themselves? And if so, what changes would you like to see that would help to lift this stigma?
Change is definitely happening. You can see it all around. And if you look at some big biathlon names recently who have come out publicly and spoken about some of their problems, I can think of Lina Ekigos, the Swiss biathlete who conducted a really long interview, I think, with the Swiss media. I don't remember if it was last summer or 2 summers ago, where she talked about some of her problems which she faced when she was a younger biathlete, and how she managed to overcome them, and that was amazing. And Lisa Vitozzi also has come out recently talking about her struggles after the Beijing Olympics, and how she struggled mentally and how she's had to overcome it. And so big names like this coming out and talking about this subject is exactly the kind of thing which I like to see, because I can talk about it on my scale, but when major international stars start talking about it, it hits a lot more people. So testimonials like this help, yeah, normalize the conversation and shift the culture around the stigmatization, which is amazing. And so, yeah, that's one of the things which we need is more, if big names have faced these kind of challenges, for them to reach out, to talk to the press, which, and it's not easy to do. Talking openly about some of your struggles is really, really hard, but when people do it, it's amazing, and it helps a lot more people than they might think. And then also just lots of basic things like education campaigns, more support from the national federations, the clubs, and making mental health and mental well-being part of the performance system. I can think of a lot of federations where we have a physical training coach, we have a shooting coach, but athletes often have to go out themselves to find maybe a psychologist for some mental health training. As it's an integral part of training. It's important for everyone, and it shouldn't be separate to what we do at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess that in elite sport, where you are in direct competition, to admit to mental health issues traditionally has been seen to admit to a weakness that perhaps athletes fear that their rivals might exploit in some way.
Yeah, definitely. If you talk to the press before your competition and you say that you're struggling, you can maybe the other athletes who are listening to that might look at it and think, oh, look, she's weak, or he's weak. I'm going to try and be stronger tomorrow and beat them and work off their struggles, which yeah, that's definitely not the way to go forward. Athletes shouldn't be demoralizing other people and pushing someone to be affected by mental health struggles so they can perform better. That's not what we're looking for.
That sort of leads on to the next question, I guess, which is how external pressures from the public, the media, even athletes' own inner circles impact on their mental health.
Yeah, it's lots of for some people it's lots of little things which can add up to just make an athlete explode and overload their mental well-being. If you can think of like lots of chronic stress from having to constantly perform under pressure. With our seasons, we generally our main competition season is only during the winter, and you have to be constantly performant over every single weekend of the year. Especially nowadays when there's no wild card results as there used to be on the international biathlon circuit, you have to be there every single day. And pressure like that, pressure for selections and trial races also, for looking for results all the time, it pushes athletes to the limits. And as you can said before, it can feel a lot of anxiety, fear of failure, the public pressure, because yeah, there's pressure from fans, there's pressure from our trainers, and there's also financial pressure. Lots of athletes aren't like professional and athletes in biathlon. Lots of them have to work. They have to reply to sponsor requirements for results. And I look for partners. Yeah, partners are always looking for results, and they'll try and put it in your contract. And you prefer to tell that partner, yeah, that's maybe not exactly what I'm looking for. I will perform to my highest level, and I will try to achieve amazing things. But like if you push an athlete, or you have to achieve a certain result, or I'll pull off your funding, that's one of the worst things which a sponsor could do, and it just leads to more failure than they're actually looking for in the first place. So yeah, there's just lots of external things and some internal things which when you just keep them all to yourself and try and not face the issue and not look for help, it will lead to burnout, and it won't lead to good performances, which in the end is what we're all looking for.
Yeah, that's really interesting about pressure from sponsors. Do they get it? What do you think when you say that's not the best way to get an athlete to perform?
Well, some do get it. It's a very good thing. Some do get it. Lots do get it,
Yeah.
more and more. But and then some people might just struggle to understand exactly how athletes work. And in those cases, yeah, you kind of need to sit down with them and explain, no, so you're just putting unnecessary pressure on me, which some athletes work really well under pressure. I'm not saying that doesn't work for everyone, but if you're that sole athlete's partner and you're threatening to remove your funding because he's not achieving the results that you've put down in the contract, it's not good.
What about clubs and federations? What can they do to help ensure that athletes' voices are heard on mental health issues?
There's numerous things they can do. First, and one of the easiest ones is to try and provide education and resources available freely for athletes, but also not just for athletes, but also for coaches. Because in the end, I'm the person I'm surrounded by the most all year round is my coach, and it can be really important for them as well to be able to detect mental health issues in athletes before they become major problems. They know their athletes very, very well, and if know them, that's one of the things which came out in the survey. Was one of the questions was how knowledgeable do you think your coach is on mental health matters? And the reply was not much. So some education for them, for us athletes, is really good. Building confidence, feedback channels is great for athletes. If an athlete has to look out for help and is looking for help, to tell him where to go, tell him how to do it, and to tell an athlete that everything, they are being listened to. They're not alone in this journey. Other athletes are facing the same things, and there is help out there for them. And another thing which is great, but which it is luckily happening more and more is including athletes in decision making. And so creating athlete councils, which the IBU has. So some athletes on the IBU board is great as well. But also in clubs and federations where it's a bit more complicated to also have athletes elected, have athletes present in meetings, because in the end, any decision which happens in the sporting world will impact the athletes. Sport is nothing without us. We make the sport, but we also understand that rules and some decisions have to be taken. But if we can be included in these decisions and we can take them in the best way possible, then that's better for everyone. Then one of the last things, if I could say, is this is really hard and it's a big financial burden for a lot of teams. That's including just a trained mental health professional within teams. And this works for some people. Some people like to find their own mental health professional because they might bond better with someone else. Everyone's different, but some just having a mental health psychologist on a sports team is great because then you always have someone you can ask questions to, and he's here to help you. It's his sole role. He's not here to train you and to push you into achieving more results. He's just here for your mental well-being.
Have you yourself developed techniques for handling the pressure of competition as an athlete?
So I've worked with a sports psychologist to try and help me. I'm not good with the pressure which can be put on me and things like that. So it's just trying to like reframing criticism is an amazing thing which I like to do. When people criticize your performances, it's something which I shouldn't do, but I like going to Facebook and onto Instagram and seeing what fans and spectators can say about me. And the ones which are criticizing you, I notice it, and instead of it pushing me onto the floor and demoralizing me, I prefer to use it as fuel. I just want to prove them one thing, and that's prove them wrong. And I know, and I use that as energy to perform better on the days after. So that's great. Another technique I love is just journaling, spreading my message, talking, just putting down on paper or putting it down in audio form what I think every day, how I'm feeling. Every now and again, share it online, because if other people read how you're feeling, if they can see you're feeling a little bit vulnerable, then they might come out to help, and then they might also feel the same way, and they might also be like, oh, well, I might go and look out for help as well because I'm not the only one facing this problem. And then one of the last points was, yeah, just embracing vulnerability, like accepting that I'm not feeling all right is okay. It's part of being a professional athlete. Not everyone is always going to be 100%. I'm allowed to feel down. Allowed not to be 100% every single day of the year. It's all right. We're not robots. We're not artificial intelligence. We're humans. We have good days and bad days, and understanding this, and when you're feeling bad, accepting it, and yeah, just taking it as a normal path to glory, not a path to, or it's just going to keep on going downhill from here.
Do you use visualization techniques when you're approaching a race to try and block out all the sort of external noise?
Yeah, I do. I use breathing exercises as well. There's loads you can find online, but yeah, no, breathing techniques is great to just calm yourself down, refocus. If you feel like you're starting to stress a lot, or if you're struggling on something, just take a moment, respire, as we say in French. Think about yourself a little bit, and all will be all right.
So, what tips would you give to other athletes who are struggling with their mental health?
Yeah, the main one is you're not alone. If I could say something to my athlete friends and to if coaches are struggling and things like that, is you're not alone. Everyone around you, as I said, is facing mental health challenges as well. And so just, yeah, reach out to a friend, to family, to a professional, a teammate, your coach, and speak up. Express what you're facing, even if they might not be directly the first person with the correct knowledge on how to treat what's going on. They might be able to redirect you to someone else. Yeah, you're not alone in this journey. Use your voice. It's the first step to getting better. Just, yeah, reaching out, speaking up, and it's not easy. It really isn't easy. I struggle myself expressing how I'm feeling to other people, and so that's like it's one of the techniques which I said before. maybe journaling, writing it down yourself, just to how you're feeling is a great start before maybe reaching out to someone else. But in the end, it's really hard to treat these things alone. Like I'm not a mental health professional. I don't know how to deal with these problems. So talking to someone about it is amazing, and not waiting for things to explode, because then it's never too late. It's never too late. But at some points it will just make the journey to recovery much longer than it is if you can reach out to someone much earlier.
Thank you, Jacques. I think other athletes who hear what you have to say will find it incredibly useful.
Well, I do hope so. Yeah, it is the main thing is, yeah, just speak up, spread your message, and there's no guilt in being down. Everyone feels that way at some point, and you should feel empowered when you speak up, and that's the most important thing.
Many thanks for taking part in this podcast interview.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure, and thank you to the BIU for hosting such an amazing summer with such great subjects.